Hello, and welcome back to the Rise and Align podcast, where we talk about all things high vibrational. We are your hosts. My name is Haley.
And I'm Demi, and today we have a special guest named Debora Stangl. Debora was once a stressed out divorce attorney, now the founder of Sedona Soul Adventures. She's recognized as Sedona's best private retreat for individuals and couples. She's also the author of Journey to Happy: How Embracing the Concept That Nothing is Wrong Can Transform Your Entire Life, which is a must read for creating your own reality. Get ready for some serious inspiration and maybe even a few cosmic nudges.
You can change your entire life by just changing one habit. Subscribe to our podcast and make listening a habit.
Change your mindset, manifest your dream life, and live magically with Rise and Align.
Raising the frequency one episode at a time.
Everything is always working out for us. Welcome. We would love to have you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do, who you are.
Great. So I am Debora Stangl. I live in Sedona, Arizona, and this is really what it looks like if you've never been here. And if you've never been here, you must come. I was a divorce attorney for over 20 years, and I left that in 1999. And then in 2002, I started Sedona Soul Adventures, where we do retreats that are private and custom designed. I work with a network of over 50 practitioners here in Sedona who are just masters, the best of the best. And each retreat is custom designed for each individual or couple. We don't work with groups. Everything is one-on-one or two-on-one. So they're designed to be incredibly transformational and life-changing, which they are. And it's been 23 years now, which is just amazing to me. And I'm also the author of the book, The Journey to Happy: How Embracing the Concept That Nothing is Wrong Can Transform Your Life. And I have a book coming out October 30th with my husband called How to Have a High Vibe Relationship. So I'm super excited about that as well. And I'm just so happy to be with you too.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. That's amazing. Just, seeing how you really went from one end of the spectrum, being a divorce attorney, to the
Yes.
complete opposite. Do you
Yes.
think having those experiences and seeing what people were arguing about, did that kind of spark something in you to start this?
Oh, well, that was one of the big things because one of the things that was interesting in that 20 years that I was a divorce attorney, I had a number of people that I did 3 divorces for. And what I was seeing was they were marrying the same person over and over again. They just had a different name. And I believe very strongly that relationship is a crucible, meaning a crucible is where you put the metal in the fire and the impurities are fired away, and the pure gold is what you are left. And the relationship is like that. When our stuff comes up, when we're being triggered, what's really going on is that our soul is bringing up our woundings, our traumas, our patterns, our fears, what I affectionately call gunk. Our soul is bringing that up for healing. And so for most people, instead of looking at that, when they get into, a relationship where things start to go south, rather than looking at, okay, what's going on here? What do I need to be looking at for my own healing? Instead, they're looking back at the other person going, I don't like you. I'm out of here. And then they're on to the next person and the cycle starts all over again. So I believe that all that stuff is really the gold. It is really where your soul is telling you where the healing is needed. And yes, after 20 years of doing divorce work and seeing all these really, really, really unhappy people, and then figuring out that there was ways to help. Yeah, it's just made a huge difference in my life. And it's been way more fun doing retreats than it has been divorcing people. I feel like I spent 20 years divorcing people. Now I've spent 20 years helping people stay together in a juicy and wonderful way. So I figure my karma is hopefully balanced out
Balance.
by now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And then some, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. And I just want to congratulate you on the your book coming out in October. I think that that is going to be a must read for everyone. In a nutshell, would you be willing to share what you think creates a high vibe relationship?
I think the name kind of says it all, right? I mean, it's a relationship that is really in the high vibrations. So we know what the low vibrations are. Anger and upset and jealousy and disconnection and, all that monkey, mucky, gunky stuff. A high vibe relationship is where you've got two conscious people who are invested in and dedicated to becoming the best version of themselves. And so then what happens is when you've got two conscious people coming together, they form that third entity that is literally the high vibe relationship, literally the divine relationship, but the relationship that is in those high vibrations of love and connection and bliss and juiciness and sexiness and connection and just really, really, really feeling good. So that is what the high vibe relationship is. And we all really, really crave that, right? I mean, and whether it's in a love relationship or whatever, with any relationship, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. What do you feel like I those who are in a relationship where they're not feeling that way, are is it possible for them to, kind of change the course of their
Oh,
relationship as opposed to, navigating that divorce route, which we've talked about, you've done both.
and
So where do they start by doing that?
well, like I said, it's really becoming the best version of yourself. And you can do that at any time. You can do that even when you are in a relationship that is not making you happy. And even when you have one person who is doing that, it can shift the energy because we all know, and all of this is all based on the idea that everything is energy. What Einstein proved and what quantum physicists continue to prove is that everything is energy. And so even my body, even my computer that just feels so real and so dense is really just a bunch of subatomic particles running around in space. And so the relationship also has an energy, and you can maintain your energy and your relationship in the low vibes, or you can do things to move it into the high vibes. And if you've got two people working on it, that's going to make it go faster. But if you've just got one person who's working on it, it's absolutely amazing when you approach it from the standpoint of its energy and you can move and shift the energy. And I have so many stories about that. We have so many people who have contacted us and said, I want to do a couples retreat with my husband. And it is usually the man. I mean, the man, and it's usually no, I'm sorry, but it usually is. Not always, but usually. The woman is calling us and saying, I want to do a couples retreat. We're in a bad marriage and I can't get my husband to come. And so then we say, well, you know what? Come and do an individual retreat with us. Just work on yourself. And it's amazing what happens. They come, they do the retreat, they are starting to become the best version of themselves. Their energy is moving. They go back home, and their husband is saying things like, I don't know what you did to her, but I want to come out and I want to do this. And then he does a retreat and then they do a retreat together. And it's absolutely just amazing. I even had a woman who I coached, and I told this story in my first book, The Journey to Happy. I had a woman who she had decided that she was going to get a divorce. She knew that I was a coach and she knew that I had been an attorney. And she called me and said, my divorce attorney is saying that it's going to take a year for this divorce to go through because of all the stuff that they had going on with the kids and all this other stuff. And she said, I want you to coach me through this year so that I can make it through the year and not, become horrible and awful. And I started talking to her in the first session about what did she really want. And as we kept talking and we kept digging, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You love your husband. You love your children. You love your family. If you could wave your magic wand, you wouldn't even be getting a divorce. And it turned out that she had this really, really high profile job where she was working like so much. And they had little kids, and her husband just absolutely would not help her with anything. And nothing around the house, nothing with the kids, nothing. And that had turned into all this anger and resentment and upset and her nagging him constantly. And just, to the point where they couldn't stand to be around each other, blah, blah. I said, wait a minute, here's what you really want. So, how about let's just spend 30 days with you doing a gratitude journal where every morning I want you to get up and just write three things really quickly, just spend 3 minutes on it, and just write three things that you really like about him. And start off with stuff like, I like his blue eyes. Or, 'cause she was so mad at him at this point that it was kind of hard to come up with. I said, he's got nice blue eyes. He loves our children. I love it that he loves golf so much. That he's got something then. And she did started doing that. Didn't tell anybody, didn't for sure say anything to him. Literally within just a few days, he started doing the dishes. Now, she didn't ask him, she didn't nag him. He just started doing it. And within a few days after that, he popped his head in and he said, is there anything I could do to help you? And all of a sudden, within a week, I mean, he was doing all this stuff. And then they sat down and they had this real talk, a real talk that they hadn't had in forever, where they both said, I love you. I love our children. I love our family. I don't want to totally mess our family up. I don't want to mess our kids up. And that was 5 years ago, and they are still happy as clams. And they came out and they did a soul adventure with us. We dug even deeper into their core wounds and this other stuff that was really at the heart
Mhm.
of creating the trouble. And so it is never too late. I mean, we have couples come to us, they have filed already. And we are their last ditch effort. And it's just amazing what can happen when you are finding, releasing, and healing the gunk, bringing yourself into connection with that highest part of yourself, and then bringing yourself into connection with the relationship. It's amazing what can happen. And so it is never too late.
That is so incredible. Like I kind of wanted to cry happy tears for them. It's
I
beautiful.
know, right?
Yeah. So I'm really curious your perspective. Do you think because everything is energy and we are attracting our own reality, right? Do you think that we can attract a happy relationship with anyone?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there are some people who are, psychotic and really, really, really mentally ill or
Hmm.
have like, but that's a small percentage of the population. Let's talk about just the general population where everybody is, let's face it, just a little bit messed up.
Yeah. It's so true.
Exactly.
Everybody's just a little messed up because, we all grew up in homes where, this was going on and that was going on, and nobody got taught how to do this. I
Hmm.
certainly get taught. And what my parents were modeling to me was certainly not a high vibe relationship. So, yes, when you really think about it in terms of that everything is energy, that everything literally can shift like that. I mean, it really, really, really can, and where you can shift your own thoughts and beliefs. Now, if you're running around all the time saying, my husband's a jerk, my husband's a jerk, I hate him, my wife is a bag, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get what you are putting out. Everything is about energy and vibration. And so let's say you don't have a relationship in your life and you want a relationship. If you're running around with thoughts and beliefs are of, men are terrible, men can't be trusted, men ghost me, men hurt me, women are awful, women aren't loving, women are this, women are that, guess what you're going to get? You don't get what you want, you get what you are. This is a vibrational universe where the universe is vibrating back to you in every moment how you are vibrating. So, your relationship is this wonderful mirror. The relationship is telling you if you're not in a relationship and you want one, it's telling you you are not in vibrational harmony with bringing someone in who is going to be loving you and, making you feel loved. If you're in a relationship that's got all kinds of trouble, looking at that, you can see where you're vibrating. If you're vibrating with your husband being a jerk, well, then you're staying in the jerk energy. You can come out of that. You have power to think about what you want. You have power over your thoughts. You have power over your emotions. A lot of people don't think that. They think, they've got a bad case of what I call the can't help it. I can't help it. I can't help it. And you are making me feel that way. Well, no, you are reacting to what is going on, and you have a choice in every moment to decide how you are going to react. I talk about this a lot in my first book, The Journey to Happy, how embracing the concept that nothing is wrong. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to gift the ebook of that to your listeners because it's got 9 different processes in it that really kind of show them how they can do this and how they can start the process of really, really being consciously aware of their thoughts and their emotions. And it's got things like the Enneagram and meditations and all of that. So I'm going to give that to your people. And I will tell them that if you start doing this stuff for 30 days, you will be amazed at what will happen. It's got the gratitude journal in there too. And so all of these things, all these ways that we have, all these tools that we have for shifting our energy. That's all we've got to do. Now, is it easy? No. Is it easy to do it all the time? No. Do I do it all the time? No, I don't. But I really try. And at least I do stop and go, okay, wait, what is going on here? What's the lesson I'm supposed to be learning? What can I be doing here to move my energy around?
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I cannot wait to check that out personally. If you are listening, definitely, definitely let's go check that out. So having something offered to us free that I know has so much value in it is a blessing, definitely. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Oh, you're
thank
welcome.
you. I love how you were using this term like power, because when you do realize that you have control of your energy, you have control over how you feel and your thoughts, like you have the power to change your life, truly. And I also love this concept that you were talking about, a relationship being a mirror. And I think that life in general is a reflection of your internal state. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I just feel like everything in life is just a reflection of how what's going on inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is a mirror. So you are always getting reflected back by the universe exactly what is going on, where you're vibrating, where your energy is. The thing that's great about the relationship is that it's really the instant mirror and it's really in your face. So especially when you're triggering each other. It's like, whoa, okay, where did that come from? Where are we? What's happening here? And so the relationship is even a more direct mirror where you really are looking at yourself through the eyes of your beloved. And so the more that you take that on, it is the most empowering thing ever when you really know, when you really get it, that you have the power to create your own reality. So the good news is, if your reality sucks right now, the good news is you can change it. And so people who are staying in the energy of the victim, it's really, really, really hard to come out of that because it just seems to continue to get worse and worse and worse. But once you are able to make that flip, once you're able to flip that switch and to start seeing it, and then to start seeing it in things that happen around you, it is just amazing. And everything is a mirror. The relationship is just a really big mirror.
Immediate, yes. So I really feel like everything is like completely intertwined. And I'm sure when you work with people, they're obviously focused on their relationship, but they're going to feel so much better just as an individual if they're focusing on raising their own vibration. Do you see like major changes in other areas of people's life when they go through that work?
We see changes in absolutely every single part of their life because typically what's happening, people come to us when they've got something going on in their life that they can't deal with or can't handle, or they really want to take their life to the next level. And so with our individual retreats, it's typically mostly people that have some sort of a problem going on, or they want to take their life to the next level, or with couples, they've got a problem going on. Now, for individuals and couples, when you have things starting to go wrong in your life, like when your relationship starts to go wrong, it starts to affect everything. It
Mm.
affects your happiness level. It starts to affect your health. It starts to affect your money. It just affects absolutely everything. And especially with individuals, when individuals have a problem going on. When I came to Sedona the first time, which was, gosh, in 1999, literally every single part of my life was a mess. I had been practicing divorce law for 20 years. I was just totally, completely burned out, and it was affecting every single part of my life. So when people come to us, even when they're doing a couples retreat, the first sessions that we're doing with everybody are individual sessions where we are clearing out their gunk, typically finding their core wounds. That's usually the most basic thing that we are doing. Finding core wounds, the limiting beliefs, the patterns, the behaviors that are causing all the trouble, because that literally is what's causing all the trouble and holding people back. So when we first clear and release and heal that, then it's incredible what happens. And so then we also do processes to bring them into connection on all the levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. We have over 50 practitioners, and a number of them do 2 or 3 modalities. So we literally have almost every modality that you've ever heard of. We have hundreds. And so we have all these different practitioners and modalities to choose from. And so when we're clearing out the gunk, and then bringing people into connection, when you're operating from connection, that just affects everything: your relationship, your health, your money. We have had people who have, I mean, gone home and released like 20 pounds in a few weeks just because they were holding on to stuff. We've had people who were physically ill, and we don't do things with physical healing here. I mean, we're not medical doctors, but we have had people who have come to us to deal with the emotional and physical underpinnings that were underneath the illness and had unbelievable things happen. We've had people who, on the way driving back to Phoenix to catch their plane home, stopped at the casino and won $10,000
Oh
or got
my
home
God.
and got their dream job. I mean, it just affects everything. Again, everything is energy. When
Mhm.
you're vibrating at those low vibes, it's affecting everything. And then when you go into the high vibes, it's affecting everything.
That's incredible. So I have a question. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to because it's a little out there, but I feel like you're going to have a good answer. I know a lot of couples uh have like sexual intimacy issues or like erectile dysfunction. Have you ever had couples with that you've been able to help or
We have had couples who have come to us with sexual issues, including erectile dysfunction. And what we're very, very clear on with everybody is we never make any kind of claims that we can do anything that has to do with the physical
Mhm,
part of anything because we're not doctors, we're not trained in that, we're psychiatrists, we don't do any of that.
mhm,
But we all know that intimacy has such a huge component of the emotions and beliefs, and it's all wrapped up in this big gooey mess that shows up in a lot of different ways. It shows
mhm,
up in infidelity, or it shows up in one person becoming addicted to porn, or it shows up in someone all of a sudden not being able to, make love in the way that they want to.
mhm,
And my gosh, I mean, the thing that we keep finding over and over again, that what is really at the heart of everything, what is really at the core of everything are these core woundings that happened to us either in childhood, sometimes it's even in past lives, sometimes, I mean, it happens in different ways. But if you are constantly operating the system and the thinking and the belief, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, how do you think that's going to show up? When you all of a sudden you're being expected to perform, and then the minute there's any kind of an issue, and everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening? And when you've got that at the core, it's affecting everything. We had a couple, and we talk about them in our new book that's coming out. And one of the other big piece that we haven't talked about yet is the nurturing codes. And the nurturing codes involve three pieces. Number one, finding the core wounds and releasing and healing them. Number two, finding the nurturing needs of each person in the couple, and then their communication style. And their nurturing needs and communication styles are based on an algorithm that comes from their birth information. So you are born with this. It's sort of kind of like the love languages, but not really, because the love languages there's only five of them, and you do it with a test. And I found that the first time I took that test, I got a big wrong answer because I had my own bias about what I thought I should be answering. This is based on your birth information, so it doesn't change. So we had a medical doctor, a surgeon who came to us, and his problem was not ED, but his problem was that his wife just didn't want to have sex with him anymore. And he was demanding that she do all this testing and all of this. And this is maybe a little TMI, but she was not being wet. And so he had her do all these tests because he's a doctor, and he was demanding that she, do lube, and she wasn't doing anything like saying no, wasn't refusing to have sex with him. It was just that when they did, it was painful and it
mhm,
hurt. So we do their core wounds, and we find out that his core wound from uh, how he grew up with his dad is I'm not good enough. And her core wound was I don't matter.
mhm,
Then we do their nurturing needs, and we find out that She needs words of praise, and he needs service, which he was already getting through his job. Service and I think words of praise. But the big one was that she needed words of praise and conversation, and he needed service, which he was totally getting within his job. And it turned out that when they first got married, they had sex like crazy when they first met and when they first got married. And then it was also happening when they first got married that he would come home and they would have a glass of wine and they would have conversation. And he would tell her how much he loved her, giving her the words of praise that she needed. And then the kids happened. He was, working like all the time. And when he would come home, instead of them having a glass of wine, he would start drinking scotch,
Mm.
which would make him immediately horny. And then it got to the point where he was like demanding to have sex like every single day. And here she is, she's tired, and um she also had this core wound of I don't matter, because she had grown up in this home where she was like the fifth of five girls and she had to do all the work. She was like the drudge in the house. And then she gets married and she felt like she was the drudge at the house again, not getting words of praise, not getting any of her needs met. And so we sit them down with all of this and they're like, oh my God. And he didn't realize, oh my God, I'm not ever giving her words of praise. And he said to her, well, I love you. She goes, yeah, but you never, ever, ever say anything about it. So he made the suggestion that they started having a glass of wine again when he would come home. And the kids by this time were out of the house. So they were, able to do that. They also did one of our other sessions that is about your erotic blueprint. What do you really like? What really, really turns you on? And it turns out that he was somebody who just needed really light touch, really, really, really light touch. And so here he was trying to do like bang away, and he wasn't even getting what he wanted. So literally on this day where we found out about the needs and they said, and they just had this talk that they hadn't had for years. And then they did the erotic blueprint. And so the next day she calls me and she goes, oh my gosh, we went back to the hotel. We made love like we haven't in years. And I didn't need any lubricant. So then we did coaching with them. And like a month later, she's saying to me, oh my gosh, we're like two teenagers again. And it's because they were both getting what they need. He didn't even know that she needed words of praise. This stuff is unconscious. We don't know it unless we do something to find it out. So when they were both getting what they needed, and it turned out he just needed to be touched. She was like holding his hand. She was like stroking his hand. And so they were making love, but not in the I've got to have it every single day way that he was demanding. So when each person is getting what they need, it is amazing what happens.
I love that so much. And I really appreciate you talking about this. I know some people consider it, taboo to talk about that, but it's real. It's so real. And so many couples have issues with that and have no idea why, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, oh, and they don't get it.
Hmm.
You know, when he started that retreat, he literally said to us, I think this is all a bunch of woo-woo. Like, okay. And we do all this stuff. We spend so much time talking to people before they come to make sure that that's not how they're, we
Hmm.
need to have people at least be open. And so, but he was really, really pushing to do this retreat because he really felt like they had done a year of therapy that did nothing for them. And because all they were talking about in therapy, all they were talking about was that she wouldn't have sex with him. And that
Mm.
was the crazy thing because she would have sex with him, but it was just that it hurt. So it was so, so interesting because he started this whole thing out going, oh, this is all just, woo woo. The minute we got down to his core wound, it was like he was crying, he was sobbing, and he was seeing how much every time she, in his mind, was rejecting him, that was just picking at that core wound of his over and over and over again and making it like this raw, open wound that just literally hurt him to his core.
Oh.
Wow. I think that's such an amazing example of what can happen when you actually explore deeper. I think in today's society, one, we look at things so surface level, like we're just putting a band-aid over something and hope that it fixes it. And we don't truly go deeper into why. And I also think that because of that, a lot of people have shame around certain topics like this, and they have a hard time talking about it because there is shame there, or there is resentment there, and that's hard to talk about. And so I kind of want to see how, like, if you're willing to talk about the connection of some of those really low vibrational things that we might be holding on to and our physical health potentially, like how those might correlate if you don't actually dive deep and go into that.
Well, I mean, it is also related.
Mhm.
And so it just, all of it, all that, all those feelings, shame and guilt and fear and all that, that is what is underlying pretty much everything that's going on when it's causing trouble in our lives. That's where it's coming from. It's from that stuff. And most people have never been taught how to connect in with that. And most, again, I hate to be generalizing about this, but most men have been taught, I mean, my husband certainly was, don't feel anything, definitely don't cry. And, children should be seen and not heard, all that stuff. And so many men don't even know how to identify how they're feeling because they've never done it. They don't, and it's only because they don't have any practice
Mhm.
at doing it. And so also for a lot of us, and this is for everybody, not just men, for most people, we don't want to feel bad. So the minute anything comes up where we're feeling bad, instead of looking at it and going, where is that coming from? We do everything we can to get away from it, to numb ourselves with, whatever, getting away from it, drinking, drugs, all that stuff so that we don't have to feel it. And so then you get into this catch 22 that is just so crazy, which is until you go into it and through it, it's going to be running the show. And your 5-year-old is literally driving the bus. And having the 5-year-old drive the bus is just generally not a good idea. And so that's what has to happen. And some people want to do that work and some people don't. But what it really comes down to is, do you want to be happy? Do you want to have a satisfying life? Because I truly believe, after over 40 years of working with people, that unless and until you find and release and heal this stuff, it's just going to keep on coming up over and over and over again to be healed. That's what this is all about. So our choice is heal it or be miserable. There's
Or marry the same person 3 times.
or marry the same person over and over and over again. My own thing you had asked about health, um, in my book that I'm sharing with all of you, The Journey to Happy, I struggled with weight my entire life. I started dance at the age of 3, And so, when you're a dancer, your body is just constantly being scrutinized. And I remember at the age of 8 having my body just totally, totally criticized because I was a ballet dancer and I didn't have the tall, thin, ballet body. And so literally I look back at myself and look at pictures of myself when I was like 12, when I was put on my first diet when I was 12. And I wasn't fat. I look back at those pictures and I'm like, what was my mother thinking? And so that started this thing of, so many of us have been there, losing the weight. Then we gain the weight back and more because we're not getting to the real issue. And my issue in that situation was I hated my body. I
Mm,
mean, I hated it. I felt like no matter what I did, I could be really good. I could go for months at a time dieting
mhm,
and I would lose a bunch of weight. And then the minute I would even think about eating regular food again, I would gain it all back and more. And then finally, a thing happened, and this is where the subtitle of the book came from, the Nothing is Wrong. I had a big fight with my now ex-husband, and I came home and I started crying and crying, and I got into bed, and all of a sudden my body started vibrating and then vibrating to the point where I couldn't move. And I suddenly heard this voice in my head saying, "Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you." Well, it was interesting because my arguments with my husband over the 20 years that we were married were always about that I should never be upset with him, no matter what he had done or not done. It was never okay for me to be upset with him, and that there was something wrong with me if I got upset with him about anything. So all of our arguments always came down to that there was something wrong with me. So I'm lying in bed after having yet another of those fights with him, and I hear this voice saying to me, "Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you." Then it started showing me how in every part of my life that nothing was wrong. And it started showing me that with my body, that nothing was wrong with my body. Now, I weighed at that point 40 or 50 pounds more than I weigh now. I was on another one of my crazy diets with manic exercise and all of that. And I started looking at that and I'm like, oh my God. And it just filled my body. And they were just showing me nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong with your body. And I'm like, okay. I get out of bed and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with the crazy dieting. I'm crazy. I'm done with the manic exercising. And 5 weeks, and I started eating just whatever I wanted to eat. Whether,
mm.
sometimes that could be something like really healthy, like a green drink, or other times it could be in an In-N-Out burger, with French fries and a chocolate shake. And suddenly, 5 weeks later, I go to get a new pair of jeans. And I pulled down a size 14 because that's what I had been, and it was way too big. And I'm thinking, oh, it's the cut. And I keep pulling down jeans, and I was a size 6. And I come home, I get on the scale, and I had released over 40 pounds. My guides now tell me it was over 50, but I can verify that it was definitely 40 without diet or exercise. What had happened was I had come into this place of I love my body. And that was over 10 years ago. I now eat and drink whatever I want. And I have maintained this because I have finally come into the energy and vibration of I love my body. And so when we do that, the impact is just absolutely amazing.
Wow.
I feel like that's exactly what I personally needed to hear. I used to, I don't know what has changed. I think I just went through some stressful events in my life, right? But I used to not care much about that, and I was in much better shape. And now the last year or so, I've been like hyper focused on like how can I lose this weight that I've gained? And I'll do the same thing, like fluctuate back and forth. I'll lose it and I'll gain it back, and I'm like so mad at my body for holding on to it.
And see, that's the whole thing when because that's what I did
Hmm.
for, all those decades. It was all, what do I have to do to lose that, to get rid of it, to push it away from me.
Hmm.
And so it is this weird place of really going into your body and going into this love of your body. And I have people say to me, well, how can I love my body when I'm, 100 pounds overweight? And it's like, well, you can definitely go into the energy of loving and appreciating your body. And I am sure, and I have sat with people where I've said, you have the most beautiful eyes. You have the most beautiful hair. Look at your skin. Your skin is fantastic. Look at these eyebrows that you have. Look at how your body has gotten you around all these years. Look at how your legs have carried you. Look at how you've got this strong heart. You've got, all this stuff. There's all this stuff. So all these things that I talk about in my book, The Journey to Happy, using tapping,
Hmm.
even though, even though I'm 100 pounds more than I want to be. I love, accept, and respect myself just the way I am. Doing tapping, doing a gratitude journal around your body. I love my eyes. I love my skin. I love, you know, I appreciate my heart working. I appreciate when you can go into that energy, that is when you stay out of the energy of what's wrong. I get on the scale. Oh no, I'm up a half a pound. Uh. You
Hmm.
got to stay out of the energy of criticism, frustration, upset, and stay in the energy of loving your body, feeling good in your body, and not be focused. You said, I'm so focused on, okay, there you go.
Yep. Hmm.
That's where the trouble is. Don't focus on it anymore. Focus only on, like I'm looking at you going, oh my God, look at your beautiful eyes. Look at your beautiful shoulders. Look at your beautiful eyebrows. Both of you, you both have like the most amazing skin. I can tell over this, all that stuff. And so it is so much about staying in the energy of love and excited expectation and appreciation and gratitude. When you can stay there and do everything that you can to stay there. That's why the 9 stepping stones that I give you really help with that. Listening to one of the meditations, one of the free meditations that you get with the book is I Love My Body. It's a 9-minute meditation. Everybody's got 9 minutes. Do that every day for 30 days. Put that on when you are wanting to do something where you're just not feeling good and you can feel yourself sliding back into that energy.
Hmm.
It's all energy. Just stay in the energy, that high vibe, and it's amazing what happens.
Thank you so much. That's just, we can know things on a logical level, but I think it's such a practice, it's like you need the reminder sometimes.
Hmm.
Well, even you got, like all of us, we're in this space, and it's so funny because we did a every month our grads, our people that have done Soul Adventure with us. One of the things that we do as our ongoing aftercare program with them is one of our practitioners does a session with them that is just, a really wonderful thing for energy. And so one of my practitioners, Rick Reynolds, who's been with me, gosh, 13 years, something like that. He's just amazing. And that day was the day that my computer died. My husband and I are speaking at Mind Valley University in Amsterdam in August, and we are way behind in getting our speech rehearsed and all that. And I had a number of other things that happened that day that I was just like, eh. And I get on that call, and here I am. I'm supposed to be embodying this all the time, right? I get on the call, and I mean, within 5 minutes. Rick has us doing the tapping, and I come into this place of, I mean, I was running around in overwhelm for probably a week. And I said on the call, I mean, I fessed up to everybody. I've been in overwhelm all week, and all I had to do was remember to start tapping. And I felt I was on a high from that, literally for 48 hours. And then this morning some stuff happened. I'm like, okay, no, come on. I'm not
Get
going
back
back
to
there. Go back to it. And this is the thing, even us, we're in the space, but you just have to remember. It was one of the things Rick said in the class. You just got to remember to use it.
Hmm.
So true. So
Yes,
true.
yes. I mean, that's why they call it a spiritual practice because you always have to come back to it and it's not like a one and done situation.
Oh, practice, practice, practice. But the thing that is really wonderful after you've practiced enough is that you really do get to this point where you're like, oh yeah, I do. I'm feeling a little ornery, a little cranky right now. I need to do something. And I got a bunch of tools where I'll try this one. Did going outside and just looking at the sun help? No, not enough. Did petting my dog help? No. Okay, I needed something a little bit more. But that is the wonderful thing. And when you've got these tools in your arsenal, all you have to do is pull them out and remember to use them.
Yes, we've talked about that too. Like you've
Hmm.
got tools in your toolbox.
Hmm. But one of the first things I have all my clients do is write down a list of 50 that you have 50 tools in that box. Like sometimes
Yes.
I need a reminder to grab one of those.
Oh, right. We all do. I mean, we all do it. And it's just, it's so easy to fall into the trap of, you know, you're doing this to me. You're making me upset. You know, this is happening. Why? All of that. And all we have to remember is it really is under our control all the time.
Yes, so
100%.
true.
Hmm.
Okay, I want to dive into something a little bit switching gears. So you were mentioning in a previous story with your ex-husband, you kind of had this whisper, and they're like, you know what, there is nothing wrong with you. And I've heard you talk about in your story about how when you were practicing law, you were you kind of had this whisper of like, this is not what you're meant to be doing. You need to leave your law practice. And you were saying how you were in debt at the time, but you still did it. And I think that so many people have like a fear of listening to their intuition or they don't trust it. And I kind of think that that is what you were doing in a way. You were listening to your intuition or your guides to follow a path that is more aligned with what you were meant to be doing. So how would you recommend someone to connect more with their intuition or to listen to that or like let go of the fear of making decisions like that?
Well, there's a whole lot to unpack in there.
Sorry, I go really
No,
deep.
no, no, no. No, that's perfect because there's just so many pieces of it that are just really, really important. And I don't want people to think that I just did this thing of going, oh, I got this message and I followed it and I did because that is not what I that is not what happened. And so I so get it when people say to me, I don't know what to do and all of that because I literally spent 5 years of being just absolutely so miserably unhappy. And like we said earlier, when that happens, it's affecting every part of your life. I gained, 40 or 50 pounds. I actually, the month before, or a little bit before I came to Sedona, I had gone to the doctor. They had actually found a lump in my breast tissue. luckily turned out to not be anything. But again, I thought it was a sign from the universe. And I was $50,000 in debt because of some bad business decisions that my now ex-husband made, but I was responsible for because we were married. I hated my job. I mean, every part of my life was a mess. So for 5 years, I was dealing with the debt and I would pray and I would meditate. Actually, I was complaining. And I would say, God, I'm so unhappy. Please tell me what to do. And I would hear this little voice that would say, you need to leave your law practice. And instead of listening to that for 5 years, I would get mad. And I would go, how can I possibly leave my law practice? I'm $50,000 in debt. I'm the sole support for the two of us. I have no money in savings. How can I possibly do that? Well, things finally got so bad that I decided to come to Sedona and just come here for what I thought was going to be just 3 days of being quiet. That's it. That's all I was going to do. Instead, I ended up doing one session with this amazing practitioner here who is still my best friend and one of our practitioners. And in this session, I have my eyes closed and suddenly I see this vision of bam, Isis, the winged Egyptian goddess, is in front of me and she wraps her wings around me and she says, everything's going to be okay. But if you don't leave your law practice now, you're going to die like your mother did. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And I realized that I was exactly the age that my mother was when she got sick and died 5 years later from cancer. And I could see that I was on the same path. I was unhappy. I felt stuck. I felt hopeless. I felt helpless. So I went home and I spent 2 weeks with my lawyer brain trying to figure out how I was possibly going to leave my practice when we were $50,000 in debt and I was the sole support. And suddenly, this one day, I did a meditation and I just felt this energy of surrender and calm just come over me. And I said, God, okay, I know I have to do this. I'm going to do it, but I got to have some help. And within just a few hours, I got a phone call from one of my clients whose case was finished. I do not know why this guy called me. And he told me that he had just bought a new business refinancing mortgages. And I said, could you get me my mortgage payment refinanced so that it would reduce my monthly payment? He called me back in 10 minutes and he tells me, I can get your mortgage payment cut in half
Wow.
and I can get you $50,000 in cash. Now, nobody knew that I was $50,000 in debt. I was ashamed of it. And here was my first sign in the universe that was really direct.
Mm-hmm.
That the minute, so I was like, okay. And then I spent the next 6 months closing my practice. I spent the next 3 years coming out to Sedona, just doing my own healing work. I would come out for a month at a time and do healing work with different practitioners that I was finding. And then 3 years later, 2 weeks before 9/11, I'm sitting in another session in Sedona and I close my eyes and boom, there's another vision of Isis. And she says to me, it's time to move to Sedona. And I'm like, for what? And my experience is they never show you the whole thing. They just show you the next step. And so I knew by that time in my life that I had to follow what I was being told. And I came home and the realtor said it would take 6 months to sell my house. I sold it in 3 days, moved here, sat here for 6 months, and all of a sudden, I started having dreams about what would become Sedona Soul Adventures. And before that, I had read a million books. I had done group retreats. I had done, webinars and seminars, all this stuff. And it was working one-on-one with these amazing practitioners that had changed everything for me. And they showed me in these dreams how I could take what had taken me 3 years and condense it into 3 or 4 days. And so it really was a very long journey for me. And it was about practicing and getting the nerve to listen to my intuition on something little, not on something
Mm-hmm.
big at first, and getting that feedback of, oh, I was right. And I started realizing when I was a divorce attorney, I always knew what was going to happen. And I always knew who was cheating. I always knew who was hiding money. I always could figure out how to find it. Yeah. And I just thought I was really well prepared. But looking back now, I can see that I was getting information that was coming in. And we all have that. With everybody that I've worked with over all these years, we've all got it. And, think about it for almost everybody that I run into when I say to them, when you meet somebody the first time, you kind of know, right? When you walk into a room, you can feel if somebody's been like fighting. You can feel if the energy in there doesn't feel good. You can feel, I need to get out of here. That's your intuition. And the more that you start playing with it, the more that you can learn to trust it because it does take practice to learn to trust it. And then the other piece of it is I've really discovered with all this work that we've done with, the core wounds and childhood trauma and even past lives and things like that, that stuff can be interfering with your intuition. And so once you have really released and healed that gunk, it makes an incredible difference with your intuition because the stuff that's blocking it, the gunk that's blocking it, it's just gone. And that helps to bring you into connection on all the levels. And when you especially make that emotional and spiritual connection, then your intuition really kicks in a big way.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Um, Boy, I just had a question. It flew away. Oh yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who feels like maybe they're stuck or they've failed or they're too old or they're not good enough or whatever it might be like? What advice would you give to somebody who's in that kind of
Well, for all of those things, and I mean, I am proof that you are never too old. I mean, I left my law practice when I was 50 and moved to Sedona when I was 50 years old, and that was 23 years ago. So it is never too late and you are never too old. And if you are thinking things like, I'm not good enough, or I'm stuck, or it can't happen, or any of that stuff, that's just your gunk talking. So, of course, I know the easiest and fastest way to eliminate that is to do a Soul Adventures retreat. If you can't do that, read my book and start looking at some of these pieces because it can really, really, really help. And I will tell you that those thoughts are the lies that your disconnected self is telling you. And that stuff is coming up because your soul wants you to heal it.
beautiful?
Mhm. I love that. Thank you so much. I have one final question that I wanted to ask you. And, we both love traveling and we both have really strong connections to like Ireland, Scotland, like all things Celtic. And I know that you have a similar experience with Egypt and you live in Sedona where there's vortexes. I would love your just to hear your thoughts on like the magic of certain locations in the world and kind of working with those energies.
Well, again, we know that everything is energy. And so then we also know there are places around the world where the energy is different, the energy is special, and a lot of those energies are connected by ley lines. And so I have a huge connection to Egypt, and I take groups there every year. I also have a connection with Peru and with Bali and take groups there. And so same thing, Ireland, Scotland, these are places where there's just stuff going on.
Hmm.
So when you can connect in with that energy, it is just amazing. And so, I mean, it's so funny. When I started coming to Sedona, I was going to the vortexes and I was like trying to make it happen because I wasn't feeling anything. And it took me 2 years because I was trying to force it. And that doesn't work. And then my brother, who is a medical doctor, who of course, doesn't believe in this stuff, he comes to visit me the first time after I moved here. And I took him to one of my favorite vortexes, and we sit on the ground. And the minute he sits down, he goes, "Oh, wow, my hands and my feet started tingling." And I'm like, "You little brat." That took me 2 years to feel that. And you don't even believe in this stuff, and you sit down and you feel it. And so, yes, I mean, there are so many places around the world that are just amazing and where the energy is so special that if you will even take a little bit of time to connect in with it, it is just absolutely incredible. And so I really, really highly recommend. I love sacred travel. It's pretty much the only kind of travel I want to do now. I mean, when I go anywhere, like my husband and I are going to France again, and we're going to Paris because we love Paris. But there's all these places that are so incredibly special. And
Mhm.
so finding those, and especially, using AI now, you can find out where, because they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're not just in the big famous places, they're all over the place. But these places are famous, like Sedona and Stonehenge and Egypt.
Mhm.
They're famous because the energy is so big that even just regular people who aren't even, trying to feel it are feeling it
Mhm.
because the energy is so big and so powerful.
That was so
Yes, I
great.
love that. Sacred travel.
My last question for you is one, it seems like you have an incredible relationship with your husband, and obviously you've helped so many people, manifest that within their lives and relationships. What would you say are like the key things to a good relationship?
Well, I know now that what really has to happen is that both of you need to be committed to being the best and highest version of yourself. And so that really involves finding your core wounds, finding these childhood traumas, finding these things that are causing the trouble because they are the core of what's causing the trouble. So finding and healing that. Then finding and knowing the needs that partner has and that you have, which comes through your birth information. When you are giving the person that you are in relationship what they need, and they're giving you what you need, that is when you are really, really nurturing each other and nurturing the relationship. And if one person is not getting what they need, you are literally on the road to Splitsville
Mhm.
because you can't go for a long period of time and not have your needs met because these are soul needs that came in when you were born. And so it's very simple to, not easy, but it is very simple to really be committed to becoming the best version of yourself and nurturing each other in the way that you each need to be nurtured.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And this conversation has just been so high vibe and aligned, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Oh, you're so welcome. And you guys, thank you for what you are doing. It's so important for people to be seeing women and especially two women coming together and really trying to raise the vibration of the planet. That's what you're trying to do. And so I really honor you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Deborah. Before we let you go, is there any final things you want to share or any additional like resources that you want to share where people can find you or anything like that?
Sure, people can find us at Sedona Soul Adventures.com. And everything's on our website. They can also sign up for our newsletter, which we send out every Sunday, that has all kinds of information and teachings every single week. And then also, I'll be gifting all of your listeners with the Journey to Happy, and that has all the information, the 9 stepping stones, and the meditations that are in there. And then on October 30th, buy our book, How to Have a High Vibe Relationship. And we already have a presence on Instagram, and we're all over social media already, even though the book's not out yet.
Amazing.
Oh, we're so excited. We'll make sure to
Thank
link
you
the
both.
book down below so that anyone listening has access to that. Again, we thank you so much for sharing your energy and your wisdom with us and for helping us raise the frequency.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Sending lots and lots of love and high vibe energy from Sedona.
You know what would be funny? We could ask ChatGPT what our message is for the day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, guys, we don't have our tarot cards with us, so we're gonna see what ChatGPT has to say.
And if you want to join us for a retreat in Scotland, comment below because we genuinely are planning that and we'll have that available for you. So we'd love to hear who's interested, what you guys would like us to do. If you got any ideas, we have a lot of them in store for you.
So this is the oracle message from ChatGPT. Breathe into this moment. You are exactly where you need to be, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is aligned for your growth. Trust the pauses, the pivots, the whispers your intuition gives you in quiet moments.
No
The
way.
universe isn't rushing, and neither should you. What's meant for you is already circling back in divine time.
Oh my God, it couldn't be more perfect. Are you kidding? The whispers from your intuition, nothing is wrong with you. Oh my God, you
Okay,
can't even make
go
that
off,
up.
ChatGPT.
You can't even make that up. I didn't even know ChatGPT would do that. I mean, it can do
I
everything at
was
this
like,
point, but
not sure like what kind of
oh
what
my
it's gonna
God.
be, but it's
You
perfect.
can't make this up.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, everything's energy. It's just reflecting
Period.
giving.
Period.
Mm. Oh,
So happy to meet someone who says that as often as us.
I know, I know. Okay, well, that was just so amazing. Be sure to share this with the people that you love and so that they can get in on this juicy, amazing wisdom from such a magical soul. It's so special. And with that, we will just see you guys in our next episode.
Thanks for helping us raise the frequency. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.